We are live.
And welcome to Violent Wrestling Podcast. As always, he is your host, Mox, and I am the co host, Metal Matt. And we are here with another brand new episode of Violent Wrestling Podcast. Of course, sponsored as always by Burger King.
Whoop whoop.
And Mox, you actually did have Burger King the other day.
I sure did. Sunday. Oh, it was delicious.
At the
Had,
last.
had me a Whopper, a spicy chicken sandwich, 20 chicken nuggets, some fries. Oh, it was like Thanksgiving in October. As you can see, AA's Ambrose Alley's icon is here. We're assuming after her trip to Vegas, she got back late last night. We're assuming that we're working on the assumption she's tired and probably sleeping. So we're going to just keep building this up like vignettes in the old days of she's coming, she'll be here. Y'all just
yeah.
wait.
Yeah, they did a vignette for somebody on NXT tonight. So we do it like that.
And shortly we'll be joined by Thomas S.K. Green, who was actually at Raw Live this Monday. He'll be along here momentarily. So how was your week?
My week was pretty good.
You come on, you got to complain about something. Where's the debate? Yeah, my
I
week
don't really
was
have anything to complain about this week. Honestly, like you're not going to get a rant from me this week, unfortunately.
maybe later. My week was pretty solid. Nothing, nothing real big happening, which I guess is a good thing. Like just a typical week. To complain about. Glad AA made it home safe. And who knows? She has the link. If she wakes up, she might do a surprise run in. Um, this is going to be rough, dude, and you know it is because we always start with Monday Night Raw.
Yeah, and
This was gut
Raw was
wrenching.
rough.
Like for those of you that may be living under a rock, Roman Reigns opens up Monday Night Raw. Gives his shoot name. Says, "My name is Joe," and proceeds to tell us that 11 years ago he had leukemia, and it has unfortunately come back, and so now he's got to go recover and kick cancer's ass and relinquish the Universal Championship. This was tough to get through. I was a wreck.
Yeah, I mean it sucks. Like no matter how you slice it. There were rumors before the show that Roman was dealing with an injury of some kind, but I never would have expected something like this to happen.
Yeah,
And
there was. I forget who put out that report because he had missed the weekend house shows that he was advertised to main event,
yeah,
and there was, but that was way not what anybody was expecting.
yeah. Like as soon as I saw him come out in street clothes, I knew something was up.
Yeah, that's it went. My interest was peaked when he came out in just street clothes. I went, holy shit, when he said, "My name is Joe." I'm like, oh, what is going on? Yeah, I just, even then, I didn't think that, you know,
Mm-hmm.
like, damn, nobody wants to. and there was nothing out. The slightest thing might have been, the injury reports that were coming out, but nothing. Nobody knew about this. Like obviously the higher ups and stuff in WWE, but there was no leak of this in any form or fashion, and so it just like a ton of bricks. Oh, that was so. Uh, at least when Daniel retired, like that, he tweeted about it earlier in the day, so we were kind of already emotionally that was tough to take too. But we were prepared for it. This was just a blind side.
Yeah, it really was, and hopefully, we hope that he'll beat it once again and come back sooner rather than later.
Yeah, the sooner the better. Um, fuck cancer.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because both my grandmother and my aunt both battled breast cancer, and I believe both of them were able to beat it. So I definitely know what it's like to have, to know people and know family members that have to go through cancer. So it can be rough. It can really be rough. So I
A few
really hope
years
the
ago,
best for Roman.
my wife went through breast cancer, 2013. Thankfully, it hadn't spread where they could get it out through surgery. Then it recurred in mid mid to late 2014, but thankfully that was benign. It was just a benign lump, but she had to have surgery again just to be safe. So yeah, and I've never been more scared in my life than yeah, fuck cancer, man. Get well soon, Joe. Can't wait to see you back, Roman. You've got this. We've got you.
Yep.
And when SK shows up, we will rehash this because it's hit him hard as well. And to watch that happen live, oh, that had to be one thing watch on TV, uh, but that's why the title of this episode of VWP is titled "Thank You, Roman," because thank you. Speaking of wife, we're doing something new this week.
Yeah, and I think it's hit all of us hard, really, like regardless.
Definitely. Um, and there's still some jackasses out there. And I'm not even gonna, what they're saying. I'm not even gonna uh, screw that. But there's some horrible people in this world.
Mm-hmm.
Just flat out, like, what the fuck is wrong with you people?
But yeah, I mean, I think it's hit all of us hard, regardless of whether we're wrestling fans or not, because you see wrestlers, especially, especially wrestlers like Roman, you know, who is built, he's real jacked, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You see these wrestlers like superheroes, you never would really imagine them to sort of go through what's happening with Roman right now. So I think it's hit all of us hard. It hit all of us out of nowhere. So it's just hard to fathom. Like even a couple of days after it, it's still tough to believe.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, hopefully Roman gets better sooner rather than later. And best of luck to him.
Sure enough. Best of luck, man. We wish you well and speedy recovery. Do what you got to do. Kick its ass. And I guess the only way to do this is just a hard segue because I could probably talk all night about the topic. But what else happened on Raw? Besides the ending, which was just that was. Sorry about that. If you guys can't tell, seems to happen like every time I podcast. It's raining, so I'm trying and I podcast outside. So, I'm trying my best to keep the rain quiet, but I don't know if it's working or not. If it give me 30 minutes, 45 minutes, and shut the hell up. Stupid rain. I guess we can go ahead and I know one thing during Raw, they made the six woman match for Evolution. Did that happen at Raw, or was it afterwards it was announced?
I want to say it might have been before Raw. I think I want to say it was like Saturday or Sunday it was announced.
Yeah.
And let me just say, the laziest match they could have possibly done.
Oh, it's definitely lazy, but at least they're on the card. Kind of like I'm always the glass half full kind of guy. Or try to be, not always, but I try to be. Like, at least they got on the card.
It's true. But, I mean, at the same time, like, go back, like, a couple years ago and say that there's an all-women's pay-per-view happening. Would you have ever guessed for Sasha Banks and Bayley to be in a random 6-woman tag match?
No, I wouldn't have. And that's and you say random, and I think that's a perfect choice of wording, because look at a regular pay-per-view, there's always that random match, if you want to call it filler or the cool down spot. There's always that one match. And who the hell would have thought Sasha and Bayley, and you were, let's go back 2 years ago, so Riot Squad weren't on, the main roster. Who the hell would have thought Sasha and Bayley would be in that spot? Not I. That's just nuts. And then it just gets compounded by how good the Riot Squad are doing now, which it actually makes sense for them. They're up and comers. They got to prove their worth. What three better than the vet Natalya and two of your biggest stars and Sasha and Bayley? But it's still a throwaway match. At least it's not the Bellas and Natalya versus Riot Squad or some bullshit like that. Excuse me.
Honestly, what I wish they would have done instead, like, do a WrestleMania 21 and have Sasha and Bayley compete in just a normal exhibition match. Just see who the better woman is.
Yeah, I'm with you. And SK's here. I think that's SK. Oh. Thomas.
Testing 1 2 3. Making sure my camera's not on.
Oh, that's why I sent you a message. We're already live, by the way.
Yeah, you're fine.
No, you're just your normal. Oh crap! Just your default icon.
Okay.
We were just talking about Roman. We were actually just talking about the 6-woman match at Evolution, but we had just wrapped up the Roman opening segment, and I made a note that you were there live, and we would be coming back to it. So I think we've said what we wanted to say. So you have the floor to. By the way, we just like no soul. This is Thomas S.K. Green, host of Whacked Out Wrestling on Thursdays. Good friend of Violent Wrestling Podcast. And so take it away on how it was in the arena and your feelings on the opening segment.
I don't think I will ever forget being in that arena on Monday night. God, I wish that I could, because this is one of those things where you just can't forget being. Would you forget being in this arena for Lou Gehrig's speech on this one? Because this is basically what it was in all its views points on it. There's just the weird thing is that if you notice the last few shows every year on something, whenever Raw goes to Providence, Rhode Island, it usually ends up being a low key big show for it. And for a smaller city like that, it's actually pretty weird that it always comes with huge shows like that. And so you expect it was going to be big, but you didn't expect it to be this big, really. There's just that. Usually it's a hot crowd, but it was just weird throughout that segment, because it was something nobody could have expected, and once you did, it was like, whoa. It tells the most on this one that it was the normal Roman hate to begin, but by the end of it, everybody in the arena was on Roman's side, and that tells that even if people may not have liked his booking or liked his in-ring style, people respect every one of these performers, because every performer out there is putting their lives on the line for your entertainment each week in and week out. And whether you like them or not, you got to respect everybody on it, except for that one person who shouted the "you still suck" thing on it. I weep for my city and my state for that one. I hope that person's banned for life from events on this one. And luckily, Rhode Island's a very small city, so if I could find out who that person is, it's only about a half-hour drive anywhere you want to kick that guy's ass, because that was uncalled for.
That's just, and I brought that up earlier. Not him specifically. I was waiting for you to bring that up, but man, there's some shitty people in the world.
Yeah, and that's one of the weaknesses for every show where you think that it's a good crowd. There's something that happens where you just weep for the whole area. It was less of a big deal as the one where they had the segment where Jinder Mahal celebrates India's Independence Day, and it's booed because he's Indian. Boo. But that wasn't as bad as that one moment there.
Yeah, there's a big difference in the two.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and really,
we lost Matt somehow.
Yeah.
Hopefully he'll be back.
Yeah. Has someone checked the Pepsi machine?
The Pep. I need my Pepsi. Mm-hmm. He'll be back. I don't know if he was in the middle of posting the nightly or something and hit the wrong button or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But really, it was one of those things that This was something where you always hear about these huge news, and make no mistake, Roman having leukemia is the biggest news since the Benoit murders, the biggest news since Eddie Guerrero's death on it, for how big it means not just as a big news story, but how much it changes the landscape of the WWE immediately.
Oh yeah, this biggest wrestling story. I'll dare say even bigger than Daniel, because we all. Oh, Matt's back.
Yeah,
Um,
sorry about that. My internet just went out all of a sudden. Sorry.
It happens.
Yeah.
Don't let it happen again, though.
Mhm.
But Daniel was already, like out of wrestling. It wasn't.
Mhm.
I'd say, there was already speculation like he, at least not in a WWE ring.
Yeah.
This might be and even it if you want to do a degree, like even this beats it a little bit, but Edge's sudden retirement
Mhm. Well,
might
even
go
with
ahead.
those ones, that's why I say it's the biggest story since Eddie Guerrero's passing. Because just with Edge, he was still a top guy, but he was never at that level that Roman Reigns was at. And with Daniel Bryan, he was a top guy at that level, but he had been out of action since for 6 months prior to the moment he formally retired on it. But with this one, it was just like Eddie. 1 minute you have one of the biggest stars in the company, and the next it was just over. And even if we don't have the firm view that it's just over for Roman Reigns yet, that just puts it at Eddie's level, because otherwise it would even be bigger than Eddie for it. I mean, you just can't really fathom how big this would be. Like Hulk Hogan in 1987, if he said, "I have cancer, I have to leave the company," or something like Steve Austin in 1999, if his broken neck had forced him to retire for good, or even The Rock in 2000, if something like this happened. That's the level of thing that Roman Reigns going out with this is.
It's a very big deal, and not just in WWE, like the wrestling world, wrestling community. Like this is no joke. Like this is um, obviously cancer is no joke. I know word good.
Mhm.
Like this impacts a lot. Like for instance, like some of the smallest stuff, like Kenny Omega talking shit on Twitter or something, and the like even that smallest of thing, and that's not happening anymore. I had fun watching some of their back and forth, and
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
but get well soon, Joe. Come back
Yeah.
soon, Ro.
Yeah. Yep. I can't wait till we hear that Royal Rumble 2008 moment when no one expected Cena to be back after a few months, and everybody does it, and everybody tears the roof off the joint cheering for Roman Reigns' return. Then, because we are smarks and we have to look cool, it goes to that, yeah, boo, yeah.
Yeah. So glad you're back, but just because, and not everybody, but just because. By the way, boo.
Yeah. And that's really the thing, because it may seem heartless on this one, but that Royal Rumble 2008 moment for Cena was the moment where it really went from, yeah, we hate you, to, yeah, we're booing you, but you know we love you, man.
It was Kurt Angle, you suck, all over again.
Exactly.
Um, Anything else on Roman?
Not really. Anything else can keep going for the rest of the show. So
Okay. I'm sure we're going to touch on it
yeah,
throughout.
that's the thing you've got to realize as well, that Roman's announcement basically cast a pall over everything else you see on Raw and probably everything else you see on SmackDown this week. You can't
Yeah.
ignore this part.
That's how big of a shadow he cast. That's a big shadow. You tell me he's not a main event or important to the industry. Bullshit. What else after the... We haven't got to the what happened at the end yet.
Yeah. Well, that's what like I said, because everything else that happens on the show casts the specter of Roman's announcement tied everything else that happened on that show, and it was a huge show.
Matt, do you have... where were we on... Anything else on Raw before we get to the closing segment?
Can't really think of
I did it
anything.
again. I closed out my... Oh, the the damn Brothers of Destruction promo.
Oh yeah.
What?
I didn't really mind it all that much, to be honest.
It wasn't that bad. It's just, it's 2018.
Mm-hmm. Well, the big
go ahead.
Oh, the big problem on this one and the Brothers of Destruction promo has been really controversial with the fact that they had the gravestones in the thing on the same night as Roman's announcement. But I'll say it on this one, where this is something you kind of have to say, okay, I don't like it, but I can live with it, simply because it's the same thing as SmackDown versus Raw 2006, which was released on the day Eddie died, and you had the Eddie Guerrero versus The Undertaker feud with Eddie in a casket and stuff like that. Or it's the thing of The Undertaker being in the main event at Over the Edge 99 and fighting for the world title for the next couple months in it. They're all bad taste things, but it's similar to the problem with Apu on The Simpsons right now, where there's a point in time where you just can't ignore it. If you're going to use The Undertaker, you have to expect death imagery in that one. He's The Undertaker, for Christ's sake. You don't ignore this stuff, because if you're using The Undertaker, you have to expect that you're going to get death imagery, because he's The Undertaker. His whole character is he's the embodiment of death in pro wrestling.
Right. Digging holes and taking souls. You have to be able to... and I didn't see it in a bad taste that way. I thought the set was cheesy, but
Yeah.
You're running a program, an angle, could maybe be seen as a lack of class or something.
Yeah.
Maybe, but that's really a big reach on... I can't believe they would have The Undertaker in a cemetery on the same night Roman walks away, has to leave because he has leukemia. Like that's a big, giant step to make.
Yeah. And people seem to be making that step, but at the same time, again, no one gives a fuck about Mean Mark Callis. They just don't. And people barely give a fuck about the American Badass. If you're going to have Mark Calloway on your wrestling promotion, you're doing it because you want The Undertaker. And so you have to expect that you're asking for the pro wrestling equivalent to the Grim Reaper on your show, and so you have to expect that you're going to get imagery of death, just like with
Right.
King. No one wants Mayor Glenn Jacobs of Knoxville, Tennessee. They want the big red machine, the guy who's the vision of fire in pro wrestling.
Oh, this rain is something else, I tell you. But yeah, I mean, when it boils down to it, you just have to separate the two segments.
Yeah,
You just pretty much have to. Like, it's not like, Taker brought up Roman or anything in his promo, or
yeah,
like, you really have to, compartmentalize or segment. The one has nothing to do with the other.
mhm. Yeah, and that's really the only thing that I will give is that's a good sign of how good Paul Heyman is in the fact that he was willing to say, yes, Roman's on our minds, and I really hope he gets better, while also saying, yes, Brock Lesnar is a dominant monster, and he's gonna run over Braun Strowman in this match. And that was a good way to do it.
Excuse me. What do you think about the Brothers of Destruction promo, Matt?
I liked it for what it was. Even though I'm not really crazy about the match that they're building towards, I still like that. I mean, I'm a sucker for anything Brothers of Destruction related. So
Yeah, and I'm the same. Like, but I'll call a spade a spade. Like, it was just cheesy as hell, but it was still Brothers of Destruction.
Yeah. And that's really the thing, because a lot of Brothers is kind of cheesy, but it's that kind of cheesy that you accept. I mean, even if it's a more serious, more sport-like program than it was in the early 1990s or in the Attitude Era, it's still, you can still accept Undertaker and Kane running around because, hell, they're Undertaker and Kane. You just
Right.
gotta accept them.
But that leads to another segment of Paul Heyman coming out, because the big question mark is when Roman left. Oh, one thing we haven't touched on, even before, Roman walking up the ramp and his Shield brothers come out and meet him. Seth bawling his eyes out. Dean trying to keep it together.
Mm-hmm.
That was a very touching moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's really the thing, because you realize how much these people are basically their second family on these things, and especially with the people who are such close friends there, it's a big part of the whole thing.
Right. And that got me almost as much as the news. Like, I just went over the top with, because I was wondering the whole time, like, where's Dean and Seth? Where's Dean and Seth?
Mm-hmm.
And sure enough, and Seth doesn't even try to play it off. He comes out just bawling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Seth was like a lot of people watching that opening segment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's
They both really were. Seth was a lot of people, just letting their emotions run. Just, okay, wear it on my face.
Mm-hmm.
And then Dean also, like, was the other segment of, man, this breaks my heart, but I'm trying to keep it together.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's really the thing where the one plus on this one was that's probably what everyone was thinking on it. I was probably lucky that I had shitty seats for the show, but I prefer the cheap seats anyway on it, because it just feels more real when you're in the nosebleeds than it does when you have good seats to it. So I barely knew on it, and it took me hit me for more proof on it because I had to explain to the people next to me who were big Roman fans and wondering why everyone was booing. And then when Roman hit the "I have cancer," that was like, oh my god.
But moving to the question coming out of that segment was, what do they do for this triple threat match now
Yeah,
at Crown Jewel? And Paul Heyman came out and gave his promo, and so now we have Braun Strowman versus Brock Lesnar on
yeah.
one-on-one for the vacant Universal Championship at Crown Jewel.
Well, on the plus side, there is the case where this was another thing where you just had the whole. It was the call of the Roman really accepted it because on paper you'd think that it would be a bad move to just pretend the last 2 months of TV didn't happen on it, and nope, Braun Strowman's a baby face again. The whole Dogs of War thing just didn't happen. You know why, we know why, so just deal with it on this one. And it did work that way because the only thing that was weird was that with last week's show, you had the moment where it seemed like the Dogs of War were falling apart and Dolph Ziggler and Braun Strowman were fighting, and then Drew McIntyre attacked and walked off on both of them, and it seemed like the moment that Drew McIntyre was going to separate from the two of them, and then the next week it was seen as the reason that Braun Strowman is a babyface again.
Yeah, that Matt, are you? I have my own thoughts, but what do you think? What are your thoughts on how they're handling the vacant Universal title?
I think it makes sense because the match was already booked anyway before this, so Brock and Braun were already going to be in the match anyway. So I think it does make sense. With that said, let's go, Braun. We do not need Brock as champion again.
Please,
Yeah.
dear God, no. That's why
Yeah.
I was hoping, like, make it a number one contenders match. Braun, whatever the match is, Braun go over, please.
Mhm.
But make it a number one contenders match or some kind of. I don't like it being for the vacant championship. So, like, go ahead and have the match, make it a number one contenders match, but also do like a tournament or something to make a second number one contender where then they fight each other over the vacant championship. Something like that. Don't just say, okay, the winner of the match now is the champion. Like
Well,
that.
honestly, to tell the truth, I think that the coolest thing they could have done would have just been to just say, wait a second, Brock Lesnar attacked at Hell in a Cell, so that threw out the title match, and so technically Braun Strowman should still have his Money in the Bank briefcase. And if you go from there, you can go from the same thing that I always thought that if they had a vacant title with it out there, the title gets vacated, and once the title's vacated, the Money
Just cash in.
says, I'm cashing in the title on vacant. Give me the title.
Just literally a swap, like you're getting change from the gas station.
Yeah. Yeah, and just
Like,
simply
here's
say,
my briefcase. Give me my championship.
yep. And that would be an interesting way to go about it. So
Yeah, and to reiterate, Matt, please, for everything holy, do not put the title on Brock. Please.
yeah. Well, at the very least on this one, it does seem like there's the good benefit that Brock Lesnar's not officially under contract as much as he is. The Saudis wanted him, so they found a price tag for it, and and got him there. So that would basically just be a, yeah, this is as known beforehand as, say, the Lex Luger Sting match where everybody knew Luger quit the company and Sting was winning the title.
Yeah.
And this seems like a, yeah, everybody knows Braun Strowman's going to walk out of Saudi Arabia the champion.
But see that grinds my gears because this should have happened a while back because Braun's kind of run his course with me personally.
Yeah.
There was a time, what was it, SummerSlam last year?
Mm-hmm.
That was the time, or even a little before that, and in between then and now. But now, like, I guess it's a good thing of, like, at least it's not Brock, but I don't even want Braun to be champion right now.
Yeah.
Like,
oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. Oh, his character is so, and then with the turn, I mean, we're getting close to Big Show, kind of, not in the number, but in the frequency.
Yeah.
Like, heel face, like, fuck, man.
Yeah. But that really is the thing on it, where it ties to how big the big problem creative had, that they ran everything through Roman Reigns for so long that now there's nothing there. And that's really the big problem that's going forward with WWE, that you can't really say anybody's the hot hand on it. There's no hot hands on SmackDown. Hell, there's not even a hot hand on NXT right now. You can't really say one guy is hot enough to say, okay, just go all the way with this guy and let's see if it's going. Like,
yeah,
the time you had a big thing like this with Brock Lesnar suddenly walking out, at least you had the case that everybody knew John Cena was the hot hand, so you just, okay, the next year's dedicated to being John Cena's coronation.
right. See, that was kind of to my point of Braun was the hot hand.
Mm-hmm.
Past tense was. He's not so much now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's also the problem that you can't think of anybody who you'd say is the hot hand. Rusev has been boiled down, and he doesn't matter anymore. The storylines on NXT, they basically destroyed Johnny Gargano enough so that he's not the hot hand anymore. Aleister Black wasn't the hot hand anymore. Velveteen Dream isn't really the hot hand anymore on it. It says something where you can make a strong case that if you're going with the simple thing of, we just lost the top guy, find the hot hand and run them to the end zone and hope we have something, that would point to WWE Universal Champion Becky Lynch. That says how bad the situation in WWE is right now.
It's just, and this is where you run into the booking problems of you have to book with the assumption of not cancer, but an injury of some kind. Like, you don't book like, hey, so and so is gonna get cancer, but book well enough where you can, if somebody does go down with an injury, you can legitimately have that hot hand, next guy up, and it not just be blah.
Yeah. And that's really what made 1999-2000 WWF so good. It wasn't just the fact that they had so many hot stars, but they kept them hot enough so that Austin went down with an injury. Shit. Okay, let's go with The Rock. Let's go with Triple H.
And again, I get why. Of course, they were going to go through with. They were going to make it a one-on-one match at Crown Jewel, but I don't like that match all of a sudden becoming for the vacated title. Because you can go ahead and do that match, make it just a match, number one contender, and do this thing for a couple months, and maybe into Survivor Series, say, and do that's like 2 weeks after Crown Jewel, but that's enough time from now. And sorry about the rain, to at least get traction on a hot hand. Like pick somebody and run with it, and make them, and like say for instance Dean, but he's kind of negated in this because of other things, but somebody make a big splash on Monday Night Raw after Roman, after he did his announcement, make a big splash, which Elias kind of did, but I want a bigger splash, and build that momentum for a month, a little over a month, and then keep going with it. But
even then, you probably need to, if you're going to do that, then don't go with the World Cup tournament. You just go with just a regular tournament.
Yeah.
And if you did, it would have to go with the case where, let's just see now.
I guess I have to give them credit for, with this being out of the blue, it's still the laziest way to go about it. But you've got to come up with something. You've got to come up with something quick. If they had more time to prepare or to write something where Roman isn't around, what can we do? So I'll give them a little leeway on how little time they had to develop or think or share ideas or something, but not much leeway, because this is the laziest thing they could have done. But
well, it says something that even if they had a tournament on it, all you need to know is that there's 31 heavyweight men on the roster right now who are not injured. So all you have to do is say, okay, Buddy Murphy gets a buy into the tournament as the 32nd man, and just run a 32-man tournament. Every person on the Raw roster's in it. Winner gets the title.
Matt, would you like something like that?
I don't think so. I think it's fine how it is, because like I said, like Braun and Brock were in the match anyway before this, so I think they have every right to still be in it.
Yeah. Or if you had to on it, worst comes to worst, you just do the simple option where Braun and Brock are the semifinal match. The World Cup is the other semifinal. Winner of the World Cup faces the winner of Lesnar versus Braun. Winner gets the title.
You run into a little snag of either A, you have to go in saying, okay, a guy from SmackDown is not winning this, or okay, a guy from SmackDown is going to win and suddenly be on Raw.
Well, you've also got the fact that if you think about it, that's going to be less the case, simply because remember, before Monday's and the announcement by Roman, there was that Barstool leaking that Roman was injured and Cena and Bryan are out of Crown Jewel. That takes away two people who'd be outside of it right there. If Roman is now out of it, then you have to assume that Cena and Bryan said no.
What else on Raw, Matt? Those are my talking points. Go ahead.
Lolita and Trish were jumped by Alicia Fox and Mickey James backstage. That's the only other thing I remember aside from the main event.
Yeah. And really, that one was another thing where injuries have gone through, as we found out that Alexa Bliss has a concussion and she's out for Evolution. So it's likely going to be Mickey and Alicia Fox versus Lita and Trish.
Have they confirmed that Alexa is out?
I don't think they've confirmed it, but rumors are saying it is. So
yeah, like it's just a rumor at the moment. I don't even know, like I've heard different things. I've heard a concussion. I've heard a broken nose. Like I've been hearing different things.
The rumor started with the broken nose, I believe.
Yeah, but as of right now, I don't think anything's been confirmed just yet.
It's not lupus, is it?
Oh, good grief. Okay, Matt. Take us through the main event. And then at the end, now, whoa. Before you get started, I have something to say.
Well, in the main event, Rollins and Ambrose ended up winning the tag titles, and Ambrose attacked Seth Rollins, seemingly turning heel.
That was a very quick recap.
Yeah. Honestly, I will say, though, that like it went through, it did not, even with the Roman announcement, it did not shock me that Ambrose turned heel on this one. I will just say it that of the turns that happened, I was far more shocked that Elias turned face on Monday. Because at least with Ambrose, we knew he was going to turn for weeks now. We knew he was going to turn for months now. We knew he was going to turn for a solid year now. And so there's no shock that Dean Ambrose finally turned. Heck, with the last few weeks with Ambrose time, if you assume that Dean Ambrose is a crazy person, the way he reacted to Ambrose time had made it clear that internally he was already at that place where the crazy person changes from, yeah, it's all good fun, to thinking everybody's been making fun of you all along now. And when that happens, you're pretty much nothing you say or do is ever going to be good enough. And that one made it clear that Ambrose had already decided in his heart he was going to turn on Roman and Seth for probably a couple weeks now, but he just finally did it tonight. But of the two, I was far more shocked by Elias's turn because it's the Honky Tonk Man 2K18 here. There is no possible way that Elias could be a good babyface. None. Everything about his gimmick screams heel. And whether it's a popular heel or not popular heel, this is probably the most what the fuck turn since Doink the Clown. You just can't make this guy a good babyface. It's just not in that character to be the guy people cheer.
And I agree with that up to a point. I think he's better as a heel. I think turning him face is a bit of a mistake, but at the same time, it could work in an early 2000s Jericho kind of way, I think.
I don't know, because I think the absolute best case scenario for Elias as a babyface is Mr. Kennedy. And even Mr. Kennedy was just a really boring, bland babyface, but a pretty fun heel. Even Jericho, at least, was more a cocky guy than just Honky Tonk Man 2K19.
Mr. Kennedy.
Kennedy. Yeah, that was before I get my thoughts on the main event. That was just in case people haven't seen. Baron comes out and Baron's doing Baron's spill, And out of the blue, Elias comes out and smashes a guitar on Baron's back. And that was like a what?
Mhm.
If you're going to turn face, Baron's your guy to turn face on.
Mhm.
Like the cocky,
Mhm.
whatever you want to call Baron.
Yeah.
Um, I'm, you know, drunk with power kind of thing, and everybody was getting tired, has been tired of it for a minute.
Yeah.
Smash his ass with a guitar.
Yeah. But even that ties to the hot hand thing because, again, 3 weeks ago, we saw Elias have a whole crowd booing him for 5 to 10 minutes just with visceral, utter hatred. And now's the time you make this guy a good guy. If anything, Elias could be that hot hand as a bad guy. As a good guy, I just am not ready for him saying, everybody walk with Elias, sing along with Elias now, and making jokes about the about the bad guy and saying how great a town it is and stuff like that. I'm just not ready for that.
On this one, I do with anything, but on this one, I'm definitely gonna. What do you do Monday? I'm gonna wait and see on. Like, did he just get fed up with, always getting interrupted? Like, I'm waiting to see holding pattern. Where does he go from here? What are they gonna tell? Which leads me to Dean. He, period, did, period, not, period, turn, period, hill, period. At least not yet.
That I can agree on, and that really ties into the big point with where you saw it with Becky Lynch versus Charlotte, where every fan knew they had a damn good reason to turn on them on an interpersonal level than to be fed up with their former friends' bullshit and saying, no, I'm fed up with this. But you can't really think of a reason that Dean Ambrose would hate the fans. And that's why Becky Lynch's turn worked on this one, where they realized that no, the fans never turned on Becky. Then they said, okay, then I'm not having Becky turn on the fans, and they did a 180 immediately there.
And I know I'm probably pulling a Matt with the Becky situation, although I agree with him on the Becky situation. Not yet. And this next Monday I might eat my words. I don't know. But too many too many things aren't adding up for an actual heel turn.
Yeah. And honestly,
they just won the championship. So what do you do now? Or are you going to vacate the the tag team championship? All the years since 2014. And I made a post about this exact thing, and you brought up, Dean time, Ambrose time. That's like being the little brother and, just constantly going through ridicule or, even the small, like, oh, this is, you're a booger eater, or, poor pitiful you, or the smallest things that, because they are your brothers, they know how to, and even in a loving way or in a joking way, say something like it gets to you, and finally you get fed up with it. Kick their ass, pick them up, I don't have to like you to love you. Don't do that shit again.
Yeah.
Now you know how it feels. Remember when you did this? Well, payback's a bitch. I'm a little bit bigger now. I'm not that little kid that you put me through hell about.
Yeah. And you have that as a possibility for it. The way that you did all this to me, payback's a bitch for it. The fact of Ambrose being crazy and having already known he was going to turn on him because he just thought everyone was making fun of him, which also makes it possible for him to turn on the fans. Even the very likely option of, wait a second, if Roman was their best friend of Seth and the best friend of Dean, so it's perfectly reasonable that, yeah, Roman kept Seth and Dean together for his sake, but now that Roman's out of the picture, Dean can say, now I don't have to pretend to be your friend anymore, so I'm going to attack you.
Yeah, I just asked for a prolonged story instead of just like an instantaneous kind of just. For one, I mean, if for a whole lot of reasons, and one of them being you guys just won the tag team championship.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's so much that could. Do not run a fucking you have to go to counseling angle.
Mm-hmm.
Do not run that shit again. You shouldn't have run it the first time.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I think that the big difference is that if it ends with Dean and Seth telling each other that they love each other, like Sasha and Bailey did, I think half the fan base would be excited by it. So.
Oh, good grief. Matt, do you where do you see Dean, and do you see where I'm coming from and my comparison to what happened Monday versus Becky a couple months ago and Charlotte?
I see where you're coming from. Personally, I think he turned heel. I do. I think he turned heel because this is WWE. They turned everybody heel. You know. As far as the Becky Charlotte similarity goes, there's it's kind of that, but I think the difference is that Seth is genuinely remorseful, and he even proved that to Dean last year. So it doesn't really make sense all of a sudden just doing this again. With Charlotte, she never really had that moment of regret and remorse towards Becky or towards anybody else for that matter.
Oh yeah, they never told that story. Like,
so I feel with Becky, it's a bit more justified with her. With Dean, it just felt like sort of out of nowhere, and on a brand where they really need some top faces, I think this might have been a bit of a mistake. But I suppose we'll see where this goes.
Yeah.
And like I said, well, Monday is going to be so telling. It's and they have to instantly address the elephant in the room Monday with this story.
Mm-hmm.
And he could say a couple of words, and surely they are not stupid enough to bring up Roman in a heel promo next Monday. Mm-hmm. Surely they're not. There's heat, and then there's I'm turning my fucking TV off because that's stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But next Monday, I will eagerly be. I'm hoping like okay, you're again. You can only. I'm basically saying the same thing over and over again. Just there's a bigger story here than just a turn, and now we're adversaries again.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's right there. Like you have months worth of programming. Run with it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that moves us on to SmackDown. Yeah, I tried doing a wah. Did anything interesting happen on SmackDown?
Not
Honestly,
really.
Yeah. Yeah, this was another case where it was just the shadow was just too much. Where even with this, there was just nothing that exciting from SmackDown. So
Oh, and wasn't there a contract signing of Ronda and Nikki on Raw?
yeah, but that's not really exciting unless you're
Yeah.
really interested in women who can't act, trying to pretend they can act or stuff like that.
I haven't watched SmackDown completely. I saw some clips the night of, and then read what how everything happened, and like, okay, saved my data, my couple of hours.
Yeah. Yeah, this is one of those problems where honestly you can't really say it because even SmackDown has to be in flux because if you're looking for possibilities to on who's going to be on how to replace Roman, you still have to you have to assume that they'd have to make a big shakeup or a big trade between Raw and SmackDown for it to really explain a way and replace Roman on the Raw roster.
I know one cool thing happened on SmackDown, and that was we had the Usos versus AJ and Daniel Bryan, and the Usos go over and they pay tribute to Roman. I say tribute, but they pay. He's their cousin.
Yeah.
And that was cool to see. Another nice touching moment, which is been coming from all wrestlers from all promotions.
Yeah.
For Roman. So, other than that,
Yeah, it's still the case where, like I said, you can't really even think SmackDown will be away from this because personally, if I was doing these things, I'd probably just make a big trade after Evolution or so. Like if I had to make the trade right now to try and help both and kill two birds with one stone, I'd simply make Raw receives in the trade Randy Orton, Rusev, Lana, Mandy Rose, Sonya Deville, Billie Kay, and Peyton Royce. SmackDown receives Bobby Roode, Bray Wyatt, Jinder Mahal, Apollo Crews, Chad Gable, Dana Brooke, Mojo Rawley, Natalya, and Nia Jax. You get from SmackDown 3 possible main eventers and Roode, Wyatt, and Mahal back there, a few mid-carders, and some women to fix it up. SmackDown gets the biggest star that's still full-time in Orton, one of the closest things to a hot hand the men have in Rusev. And would you look at that? Absolution and the Iconics are now able on Raw, and you're all ready for women's tag titles to be exclusive to Raw.
And they would still have, the Riot Squad to boot.
Yeah. So suddenly you get a replacement star, a replacement hot hand, and you prep things for the women's tag division.
Since this is SmackDown, I already know the answer, but I have to ask you, Matt. Becky Lynch, what happened? You have the floor.
They did like a pre-taped segment where Charlotte Flair is talking at the Performance Center and Becky invades and the two brawl.
That was literally all they had for the go-home show of Evolution.
And
I don't really mind it that much because they pretty much done everything they could possibly do in this feud, so I don't really mind it too much.
Well, honestly, I do kind of mind a little bit because if this is the blow off for the feud on this one, it's kind of weird when the next Twitter battle you have is Becky Lynch in a Twitter battle with Rhea Ripley, and that does not bode well on it because that's like saying, "Oh shit, they're not going to send her to NXT UK, are they?"
Well, believe it or not,
Are we talking about Becky here?
Yeah.
man, that joke just went over everybody's head.
I guess I didn't hear you, or
Mm-hmm.
Well, we were talking about Rhea Ripley and Becky Lynch, and I said, believe it or not.
oh, Ripley's. Believe it or not,
Oh,
I got you. I just didn't hear you.
mm-hmm.
But yeah, there wasn't much to this.
Mm-hmm.
And going back to the opening of the show, where Matt said you won't hear me rant this week, and this is why, because there was basically Charlotte put a lot of people to sleep, and then Becky attacked her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes. My Twitter is at Fireman6809. Go ahead and send me hate text or hate tweets because I don't like Charlotte, and I made a joke.
Mm-hmm.
The weirdest part is they released that video, or at least part of it, like on their Twitter, and they're investigating. Like, if you want a better moment, just on Twitter, like, this was filmed, I think, last month, but have like just hey, Charlotte's at the performance center. She's teaching people at the performance center. Don't release the actual Becky attacks Charlotte.
Mm-hmm.
Leave that for Tuesday for SmackDown.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that
Like, oh, we knew Becky was, or we knew Charlotte was there. She was, talking to a class. Oh shit, Becky attacked Charlotte.
Mm-hmm.
That's how you do a go home pre-tape thing.
And I mean, let's face it, Charlotte brought it on herself. She instigated the attack on SmackDown last week. Becky was just giving her a receipt.
Yeah.
Never fails.
Mm-hmm.
It was just such
and really like all of this, even though Becky is supposed to be the heel, she is constantly being proven right. Like Shari, even though she's not even champion anymore, she is still getting every appearance, every media appearance, every opportunity, getting photo ops, getting to talk to the PC. Like, come on.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Charlotte is the heel here.
Yeah. And honestly, it ties into the reason that the CM Punk turn in 2012 didn't click and no one wanted to hear that one either. Simply because it boiled down to people realized that there was the World Championship and there was the being John Cena Championship. And CM Punk may have had a pretty belt, but John Cena was still John Cena, and that meant that he was the star. I mean, if John Cena, John Laurinaitis, actually main evented a pay-per-view, you could never say that CM Punk didn't have a point.
Yeah, that's completely fucked off. How just the two names, and I will go no further than that. Yes, it's John Cena, but it's against John Laurinaitis, how the hell does that main event a pay-per-view?
Hey, he has 2 5-star matches.
And I'm just, I know nobody can see me, but I'm just shaking my head like, what the?
Yeah. And that's really what Charlotte Becky is in this one, because again, it boils down to Becky Lynch has the title, but now she's realizing there's also the being Charlotte Flair championship. And that's a problem because, as we've seen on this one, no one wants a being X championship. They want to believe if you hold the title, that means that you are the best in the company, you are the face of this division, and you are the star. And no one wants to say, nope, you have a belt. This person's the real champ because we say they are.
And I know different scenarios, but you would have to see modern day where AJ would, at least the character of AJ would be a little frustrated. Like, I'm the damn world champion, the same world champion we're talking about now, not this new Universal Championship. And I can't headline my own pay-per-view. And I'm not like really comparing AJ, shoot being mad and wanting to walk out on the company. Not by any means. That's why I put in the in character, like, because he's done interviews where he's hinted at like he doesn't get how he's not at least in a main event every once in a while.
Yep.
So SmackDown was pretty. If you didn't watch it, just read some recaps or something. It's not a must-watch episode, which moves us to Evolution.
At least the
ahead.
Iconics were on SmackDown, so it at least has that going for it.
Yeah.
That always makes it better. And that's one thing I knew they were on there. What happened?
Everybody on SmackDown that's in the Battle Royal would just.
Oh yeah, okay. That was when
everybody in SmackDown.
Okay, I wasn't sure if they had a separate segment from that or.
They should have, but maybe that's just me.
Yeah.
I noticed you did not bring up anything about Miz TV.
Well, I turned the channel for that, like I always do with Miz TV.
Did you see the still shot? I think it was on Twitter of right at dude front row seats on the aisle, like the ramp has a sign, replace we want to watch True TV, like as a dig to Miz TV. I forget how the sign was worded, but it was a big old sign, and Miz walked right by it and stopped and looked at it.
I didn't see that sign, but that sign is 100% accurate. # cancel Miz TV.
After this, I'll see if I can find the picture and I'll send it to you because it's a big full-on poster board, like right there. But moving along to Evolution predictions, and this is no particular order of how I think the card will go, but it looks like it could be Sasha Banks, Bayley, and Natalya versus the Riot Squad.
Honestly,
so you got.
I'd probably go with Riot Squad.
I'll go with Sasha, Bayley, and Natalya.
Yeah, it's weird because when in doubt, I go with the more established team on this one, and the Riot Squad have really upped their game and become a pure team, where Natalya doesn't really click with them, and it feels like that would be a better spot for a legend on it. And of course, you have the fact that Sasha and Bayley should be fighting each other on the feud. Sasha should be in the thick of the title picture, and Bailey should be sweet and nice and never hate anybody.
What do you mean Natalia's not a legend?
Mhm.
How dare you, sir?
Well,
Yay!
I'm sorry that I said this in Natalia's birth year, but she's not really a true legend tier one like a lot of the Legends matches.
I mean, she's clearly not a legend like those legends, the Bella twins,
Mhm.
those pioneers.
Hey, they started the women's revolution. If it wasn't for them having a really bad 30-second match, none of this would have happened.
Yeah, like that's the thing. That's the thing. Like people will say that. Like WWE will always try and say like the Bella started. And like, yeah, technically that's true, but not the way they're trying to spin it.
Yeah, but at the same time, there's also the case where the Bellas saying they started the women's revolution. Here's a little secret for the people. They're bad guys. And because they're
Well,
bad guys lie.
well, even before they turned heel, WWE was saying that. Like they were saying that they were legends and them starting a revolution, all that stuff. You know.
Yeah, and that's really the question on it, because it is a case where you can argue they started the revolution, but they started the revolution because everyone was pissed that they only gave Paige and Emma 30 seconds after the four-way dance in NXT that really made fans want women's wrestling.
Yeah.
And to that point, the big thing was actually AJ Lee tweeting directly to Steph with the hashtag Give Divas a Chance.
Mhm.
But I'll go Riot Squad on this. I hate using the term like, they need it more, but kind of along the lines you were saying of, they're an established trio. They should go over, and it ties into the hot hand kind of thing. Like probably the Sasha Bailey Natalya team goes up just because they're the faces and mostly love, but Riot Squad, and I'm picking Riot Squad, but they should go over. They need to go over here. Give them some momentum, like they've been doing.
I mean, they had the job to the Bella twins for a month. There's nowhere else to go but up from here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Next, we have the women's battle royal, and I just exited out of. I had the participants listed, and I just accidentally exited out.
Yeah, this is the problem of having my own personal researcher on my show. It's easier to have the answers at the top of your head. So,
Naomi's in it. Asuka. I think those might be the two going into
hold
it.
up,
Heavy favorites.
Pulled out. So the answers for who's in the battle royal right now are Tamina, both Iconics, Ember Moon, Alicia Fox, Nia Jax, Dana Brooke, Asuka, both members of Absolution, Carmella, Lana, Naomi, Tori Wilson, Michelle McCool, Alundra Blaze, Ivory, Kelly, Maria, Molly Holly, and Zelina Vega.
Oh, when they announced Selena?
They announced her on SmackDown, apparently.
Yeah,
Either on SmackDown or from the date on Raw.
I think it might have been on SmackDown. I think
Yeah.
I could be wrong on that, but I think it was SmackDown.
Nice.
Yeah.
More Selena, the better.
Yep. So of this list on it, yeah, I'm assuming it's going to be Naomi or Asuka because they'd be the most likely one to be next feud for Becky Lynch. But I would not be surprised if it's something like, say, if it's not one of them. So
Yeah, don't do a Legends wins here like Thunder Blaze or
Mhm.
do
Well, it depends on which legend is, because I'm sure that Alundra Blaze or Molly Holly could probably put on a good match for the title, so they might be a viable choice, but even then it would basically be only if you really want it to happen on that show for Alundra Blaze, and only if it's basically Molly's tryout to be a coach for the Performance Center. So
yeah. But I'm just not big into that. Like I again, Naomi and Oscar are the at least going into it. And when I say favorites, I don't mean my favorites to win the battle royal, but I would really like somebody like Peyton to win.
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
well, I don't know on that one, because to me, Billy and Peyton seem like the type of people who have more of their moment if they show up and are the generic. They're really annoying and they cut an annoying promo, and everybody teams up to eliminate them first moment. That seems
Yeah.
like more
Screw that.
seems like
Screw
more of
that.
a true iconics moment for this than being the one who actually wins it.
I think Matt has something to say about that.
I do not want that to happen. Let them win the thing. Like really, give them
Both of them?
something that yeah, both of them. Let's go with that. Both of them, because
Well,
both
I
of them
don't
deserve
know.
to win.
Keep in mind, my tea is just as cold as yours are about Billy and Peyton here, but I'd say that they're the type of people who work better as the annoying people who get clobbered and eliminated first, because everybody else is annoyed by him at the moment for it, and not the come close and actually win without any fanfare for it. Plus, if they get their moment should probably be first tag team champions.
Yeah, and see that I was going to bring up that topic because you brought it up earlier on the Raw thing.
Mhm.
It's if the women's tag team champions are going to happen, like you have to include tag teams.
Mhm.
And Iconics is definitely a tag team.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to pick for the hell of it, Naomi.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Kelly can get eliminated first for all I care.
Damn, shade.
Well, as far as my pick goes, in a perfect world, it would be one of the Iconics, because I want to see them officially turn Becky face and have her feud with the Iconics. I think that would be a money feud. But since this is WWE, I don't think that's going to happen. So it's going to be either Oscar or Naomi. I'll go with Oscar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that with the winner of this, it basically goes down to, I'm thinking Becky wins at Evolution, but the only question is, whose feud do you do first? Becky versus Oscar or Becky versus Naomi? And low key, people are completely sleeping on it, but I think that Becky versus Naomi is a potential WrestleMania feud right there, because everybody wants Becky Asuka because smell the work rates and stuff like that. But Asuka's, there's nothing there outside of the undefeated streak. But with Naomi, you have a match where they wouldn't have anything to go with. That Naomi isn't exactly a bad person, so you could see her being the face against Becky. But if you think about it,
I think she's going to get booed against Becky, honestly.
well, if you think about it, every bad thing that's happened to Becky Lynch that set her on this spiral is Naomi's fault in kayfabe. Naomi was the one who got the shot against Alexa Bliss first. Naomi was the one who won, which took away Becky's rematch clause. Naomi was the one who kept going, and that meant that Becky got kicked to the curb because Naomi was so successful on it.
And Naomi won at WrestleMania.
Yep.
I could go in there and rant about that entire angle, but I'm not going to.
Well, it really
we want rant. We want rant. We want rant.
Yeah, but it really does go to the case where if you did that one, it would be finally get to the point which should have happened in 2016, where it basically boiled to, yeah, Becky's good. So is Naomi. They can't both be the champion.
And see, I would prefer, and I'm not the biggest Naomi fan, but I would prefer that feud because there is that underlying story. And this goes to a match later, but please, Pain. And then you could tell kind of what they're doing now with Charlotte, but in a different way. Man, every time I was trying, here you were.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's really the point on it, because the big difference between Charlotte Becky and Charlotte Naomi is that Charlotte, you can argue, did some things wrong. She stole Becky's thunder. She stole the title, the win in the match, and on it, and you could buy that. Yeah, it is Charlotte's fault. Naomi has all the same things on it, but it's not her fault that they chose her. It's not her fault she beat Alexa. What was she supposed to do? Lay down and let Alexa pin her so that Becky could have a match?
Yeah, finger poke of doom. I mean, what are we?
Yeah,
but there's a story there that could be told where if it was Asuka, like there's a lesser story to be told.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd rather have Becky and Naomi. I mean, I'd rather have Becky and Asuka because that would be a much better feud match, in my opinion.
Well, I don't really know, because really the big problem with Asuka is that in the ring, Asuka is a much better wrestler than Naomi. But as a character, Asuka's basically Japanese Naomi. Really, there's no nice way to put it.
They pretty much killed her character this year.
Yeah, but even before that, there wasn't really much of a character of Asuka, except she wins all the time. She's unstoppable. She's amazing in the ring. And no one can beat her. That was basically her whole character. And now that character's gone, all we have with her is she dresses in really crazy colored costumes like Naomi. She has crazy colored hair like Naomi. She dances around like Naomi. She uses her ass as her finisher like Naomi. She's basically Naomi.
I would say with Asuka, it's more so a hip attack.
No, she's using the rear view here, or what she calls that, the rear view. Don't front here.
Aren't they basically the same thing?
Yeah.
Like Naomi would do it more blatant of the rear view, but
yeah, call it a hip attack, call it the rear view. You're still getting booty in your face.
Hold on 1 second. Okay. And everybody, she does the review. That's a hip attack. Like, I know the difference, but at the same time, they're pretty much the same.
Yeah.
Next, we have Kairi Sane versus Shayna Baszler for the NXT Women's Championship.
Unless they end up doing that 4 Horsewomen angle at Survivor Series, which I don't think happens this year. But if they do, that's the only way I can see Shayna win.
Yeah.
But since I don't think that's happening, I think Kairi retains. There's really no reason for Kairi to lose here.
Yeah. Honestly, I think that the fact that Becky versus Charlotte is such a feud has pretty much said that ship has sailed for Horsewomen versus Horsewomen. So it's pretty much, it's Kairi's to lose.
And it wasn't really a good idea to begin with.
Well, I think the big problem is that you can only do that one because it's just a bad matchup. There's no way WWE's making the MMA Horsewomen the heels. and there's no way the fans are booing the WWE horsewomen. And it's going to be worse now with Roman gone, because when Roman went, for the first time you can argue a woman has the conch shell right now. Ronda Rousey is basically the franchise player of WWE at this moment, and you can't really imagine them turning her heel.
I said a long time ago that if feud isn't going to the horsewomen, but for that to happen, maybe next year, SummerSlam, Survivor Series, whatever. And I'm sorry about the rain, guys. I'm trying to talk and keep my microphone around as much as possible.
Yeah,
but it will have to be the MMA four horsewomen are faced.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's accepted or not, that's just going to have to be how it works.
Yeah.
On this match, it's Kairi Sane, like all the way. Whether Shayna moves up or what have you afterwards, Kairi Sane has to retain.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I do think that Shayna gets called up after this, because there's nothing left for her to do in it.
Honestly, that's also the problem, because if you think about it, there's really nothing left for Kairi Sane to do in NXT either. I mean, unless you're going to have, and since the show happened tonight, you can't really say it's spoilers, but unless you're going to run with Io Shirai versus Kairi Sane as the next big feud, that doesn't work. And honestly, I don't want them to run that feud, because that would basically say that the Joshi stars are on a level above anybody in any of the non-Joshi stars. And
after we went through that with Asuka.
Yeah, but we could go through Asuka being a dominant force, because she was sold as this is a dominant force of nature. It's a little bit less of one with Kairi Sane, because she's not so much a force of nature as she is a happy, friendly space pirate flying on a magical space pirate ship that runs on glitter.
I agree with that. I was saying from Asuka, and then Shayna, and then what you're basically saying is Joshi stars are better than everybody else on this roster. Nobody else matters.
Yeah, and that's really the problem, because really they're good, but you have to make it so that it's possible for a Joshi star to lose. And right now it seems like Joshi stands are whinier than American stands for it.
I've noticed that as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because that's really the problem that killed Asuka, because it wasn't just Asuka shouldn't lose because her gimmick is that she's undefeated, and it was more that feeling like Asuka can't lose to this woman. It's beneath her. And that's a world of difference.
Well, with Kairi, there's still a couple feuds I think they could do. They could have a feud with Lacey Evans. They could have a feud with Bianca Belair. I'm not saying I want those feuds, because I'm not really a fan of either Lacey or Bianca.
Mm-hmm.
But there are feuds that they can do.
It's hearing a lot of feedback.
And I think at the WrestleMania takeover, it will be Io Shirai versus Kairi Sane.
Yeah,
with Shirai winning and Kairi getting up on Raw or SmackDown.
Who says Raw or SmackDown? I mean, Brian Kendrick's ostensibly a pirate. She could be his valet, so.
Nobody else is hearing feedback but me.
I'll be on that as well.
A little bit, but not much. So
it only happened. It doesn't happen in Mac Talks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but honestly, I would rather see something like Bianca Belair or Lacey Evans fighting Kairi Sane, because you could get stuff on who's the better athlete, be it Belair or Sane or Belair or Shirai, and that would probably be an amazing match. And we have the never-ending feud between Pirates and women who are just there to get their MRS degree. So you could have something for Sane versus Evans.
I mean, it only happens. It doesn't happen when you talk, so I don't know if you have speakers on.
Mm-hmm. Nope, I don't have any speakers on, so.
Oh. Weird.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's not on the card I'm looking at, but since we're talking about it, the Mae Young Classic final clapping tonight, and so we know at Evolution we have Toni Storm versus Io.
Mm-hmm.
Who do you guys think?
Like I said from this thing with Kairi Sane, I'm hoping it's Toni Storm, so.
I'm going Toni.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Again, it just boils down to the fact that if you do it that way, you could probably get a good storyline with Io Shirai. She feels like Kairi Sane surpassed her, and she's jealous of her. Like everybody decided was the storyline when she got there for it. That would probably make an interesting feud for the future on it. But at the same time, you'd also have to say, no, the Joshi stars can absolutely lose as well. So we're giving it to Toni Storm. Hell, you should be happy on this one because Toni Storm has just as much credibility from Stardom as any of the Japanese women. So if you're not fine with that, just be a man and say it's racism, and you think that Japanese people are better than Westerners.
And this has not even like a reach. This has match of the night written all over it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this could steal the show in this show, absolutely. So,
you two are saying Toni Storm. I'm actually going to say Io Shirai. I don't know. I feel like it's a bit obvious.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it feels right. Though, I mean, I don't mind who wins here, though, because both are good choices.
Yeah. Both have this. This is definitely a show-stealing match, so it's going to be good either way.
And this match, I don't know how we're going to do this, and I guess things are going to the Mickie James and Alexa Bliss versus Trish and Lita.
Yeah, honestly, this is the problem because if it's Alexa Bliss, then I don't know. Based on my choice, depends on if Alexa Bliss is healthy. If Alexa Bliss is healthy, then Alexa and Mickie should beat Trish and Lita, because part of these Legends matches is the current era has to beat the Legends, and it's more so with the women's evolution because WWE has made the women's revolution narrative. Oh yeah, there was maybe Trish and Lita who were pretty good, but everybody else in women's wrestling history sucked. Then Paige and Emma had put on some good matches. Then the Horsewomen happened. Then Stephanie McMahon invented women. That's the narrative they've decided, and part of that narrative, if you've done that, says that, okay, now you have to say no woman from the past should be able to beat the women of this era, because the narrative has said that, no, they're worthless. You say that they're good now and say old school is cool there, then you've got to say that, nope, these new women aren't that good. Hell, they may not have been that good beforehand. So you have to say, if Alexa Bliss is in this match, Alexa Bliss should beat Trish and Lita handily. But that ties to the other thing where Mickie James and Alicia Fox are both old veteran performers up against Trish and Lita. And if that's the case, Mickey James was in Trish and Lita's league beforehand, and they put her over. But Alicia Fox was a veteran of that time period. And if that's the case, then Trish and Lita should beat Mickey and Alicia.
Either way, I think this is a damn that feedback kills.
Yeah, I'm hearing most of the feedback from you, so.
I think where the legends go over, regardless.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, same here. I think Lita and Trish win.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's really the problem because, again, it just boils down to it's the same reason that the legends shouldn't win the Battle Royal. Eventually, you've got to set, if you're making the narrative, the current era of women are so much better, you can't turn around and say, old school is cool and the legends are beating the modern era. Because that won't put the modern era above the legends like you're supposed to do. That's basically putting the modern era down to the era of the old legends. And if you're basically saying that the old era was just a big thing of bikini contests and pudding matches, then you're basically saying that even the women of this era are no better than the kiddie pool filled with pudding. Oh, and Mox is apparently gone, so it's probably him who's at fault for the reverb. So let me go continue on since Mox is out for it. And allegedly, we have a Rhea Ripley versus someone to be announced for the NXT UK Women's Championship, and that would be interesting, especially given the Twitter feed on it.
Yeah, that match is weird.
Yeah, well,
because as far as I know, I only think on the NXT UK they've even I don't think they've even like did the match with a Rhea winning.
Yeah, and honestly, it would be a little bit interesting because if they do this, just from these Twitter ones and how the SmackDown women are basically so based on just Twitter based angles, I'm getting that sinking feeling that what we get is Charlotte beats Becky for the SmackDown Women's title, and then Becky Lynch steamrolls Rhea Ripley and wins the NXT UK Women's title and goes to NXT UK. For some reason,
I would be shocked if that happened.
So would I, but I'm getting that sinking feeling about it.
And I hope that doesn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
What were we on?
It's the Rhea Ripley versus an opponent to be determined on the card.
Oh, are we? I guess we're.
Well,
they're going with that.
Yeah, assuming they go with it. So.
Sorry, I exited out to see if it would help any come back.
Help a little bit, so.
Yeah, I think so as well.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not hearing it on my end like I was. I should have done that sooner. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Well, this podcast on to hell. No.
Yeah.
Please, no, let the Rhea Ripley and now, I mean, it's Wednesday. The pay-per-view is Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of hoping whoever faces Rhea, if the match happens, the opponent wins.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it just depends on a lot of different things because you'd have to say, would the opponent be able to be someone on NXT UK or would it be someone else? Would that nagging feeling of the Rhea Ripley, Becky Lynch Twitter war lead to Becky loses the SmackDown Women's title and immediately wins the NXT UK title on it. And you'd also have the question, would we actually get the first negative days title reign since the era of WCW?
I don't see Becky going to Evolution.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, UK.
Yeah.
Let's see. Da, da, da.
Mm-hmm.
Which leads us to Becky versus Charlotte.
Mm-hmm.
Becky, please retain.
Yeah.
Please, 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 please let
That
Becky
is on his
win.
knees. Pretty please.
Do a double turn, turn Becky face, turn Charlotte heel, and everything will be a-okay. I don't trust them to do that.
Yeah.
But I hope that they do the right thing.
Honestly, that's the problem on this one, where we saw him do the right thing with Braun Strowman on this one. Most likely, if this happens, I would think that if Becky wins, Charlotte's going to Raw, and that would probably make some sense. But right now, I think that I'm honestly thinking Charlotte wins on this one, because it just seems like this is the blow off, but I could also absolutely see Becky winning. But either way, they're not.
You're a horrible human being. That's why.
Mm-hmm.
Bad joke.
Yes.
Like, Charlotte does not win here. No. Please, no.
I can see it happen. I really can.
So can I, but man, I don't.
Because I'm used to that. I'm used to when it comes to the booking of Becky Lynch, I'm just used to disappointment.
Yeah.
I could see it, and that's why I'm so adamant of no, please, no. It's not just that I don't like Charlotte per se. It's no. Consuelo from Family Guy. No. No. Please don't do that.
Yeah. Well, the one positive on this one for Orton is that this seems like one of the problems where it's a murder your darlings face thing for if you're having sometimes where your favorites are in direct competition. And that's really the problem with this one for Matt on this one, where if Becky wins, she's probably then, I'm assuming, either Asuka or Naomi win the Battle Royal. If Charlotte wins, one of the Iconics is totally winning the Battle Royal. So which one would you rather have? Take the blue pill, and you've got Becky Lynch as the champion. Take the red pill, and the Iconics are fighting Charlotte for the title.
Blue pill. Blue pill.
Blue pill.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I could see it either way on those ones. So
I can too.
Mm-hmm.
But the more interesting feud is Becky and the Iconics.
Mm-hmm.
And after exiting out of everything and coming back, I guess they haven't actually announced it, but it's on. I went to the wrong card or to a site that actually has who the NXT UK Women's Championship, like who's fighting who.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And who's apparently fighting in the NXT UK title?
Well, since we already kind of spoiled a little bit of it, mute if you don't want to know the NXT UK Women's Tournament thing. I'll count to 5, and mute and then give us a couple minutes.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Savio Vega.
How'd you guess?
Whatever.
It's Rhea Ripley versus Isla Dawn.
Mhm. Works for it.
Which I won't say any more than that. I mean, the spoilers are so out there that if you didn't already know Rhea Ripley was the NXT Women's Championship, like, you really don't get online very often.
Yeah. Yeah, because that's really a big thing on it, where really that it's about the time that you have to go with it now and just accept it. So
Yeah, there's one thing in a week long, couple weeks at, like Mae Young Classic, like, avoid. But shit, this was filmed what, 3 months ago now, 4 months ago. Like, it happened a while back. It just hasn't been televised.
yeah,
But
yeah, that's really the question mark of if they do a negative day title reign, like with the Freebirds in WCW for it. Because really, if that match is occurring, then you have to have the question of whether you do it.
So I don't know how they're going to work that into the UK tapings. I was hoping that last week, this week, you really couldn't do both weeks, like the tournament itself. But I was hoping they would, like, at least, cut some matches out or something and get us a, confirmation leading into Evolution.
Yeah, or at least have the show, have it where you say Rhea Ripley wins the title on this one, and she's fighting on this one on an old taping for it. Heck, even go with Rhea Ripley was awarded the NXT UK Women's title because of how dominant she was in the Mae Young Classic, and the women of the UK are furious that she injured Tegan Knox, so they're going after her that way.
Yeah, like, of all things that they do pretty much kind of spoil sometimes, the timing of this would have been, because people, excuse me, people are still going to watch.
Mm-hmm.
The people that are going to tune into NXT UK are still going to tune into NXT UK.
Yeah.
Fucking put it out there.
Mm-hmm.
And there's still, just because something is full doesn't mean that the matches aren't still good, and you want to watch and see how everything transpires. And yes, Tegan Knox. I thought it was Tony Storm.
Mm-hmm.
Was it Tony or Tegan?
No, I'm just saying it was probably Tony Storm who lost to Ripley, but I'm saying that if you don't have that match out there, you can at least write the story off as Tegan Knox was injured by Rhea Ripley, and now the women of NXT UK are furious because every UK woman knows everybody else. So.
Oh, I'm with you now. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Wouldn't you kind of have to go Rhea here?
It depends. I'd assume so, because it's both of the NXT matches depend on the Mae Young Classic final on it, because you can pretty much say whoever wins the Mae Young Classic final is getting the winner of their brands on it. If Io Shirai wins the Mae Young Classic, she's got next for Kairi Sane. If Tony Storm wins the Mae Young Classic, she's got next for Rhea Ripley.
And that's where some of my, not really, but play it off. Confusion came was Tegan being injured and Tony being in the Mae Young finals. Like, sorry, guys, I just confused names. My bad. Oh, speaking of heartbreaking, Tegan last week on NXT or Mae Young Classic. Oh, that was brutal.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's really the problem of what's going to happen on this one, where if she can't come back, you kind of have to assume that she'll get an extra one, and that's probably the plus of NXT UK there, where at the very least, Tegan Knox is a pretty girl and she's kind of bubbly, so she'd probably be a good NXT UK interviewer.
Yeah, I can see that. Like, keep her in the industry, you know, if worse comes to worse.
Plus, if she's in the NXT UK, that also helps the fact that Welsh is barely English wouldn't hurt her as much. So,
who you got, Matt?
For what match?
Or we'll quit talking about that because I said 2 minutes and we've gone about 4. So, now the who gives a shit match: Ronda Rousey versus Nikki Bella for the Raw Women's Championship.
And the worst part about this match is that if they didn't have to make it all about do nothing bitches and about who's fucking who and who's doing what on this one, this match could have been so good and for a build-up if they did it right.
I don't know about that.
No, honestly, you've got to think of it this way. All you have to do to make this match good is just know 2 things on it. Even the biggest Bella hater will say that Mitsuharu Misawa came down from Valhalla where all warriors dwell and granted Nikki Bella the ability to throw an amazing forearm. And if you know MMA or anything about it, you know Ronda Rousey can't take a punch. One shot to the dome and she has beaten her. That's all you need to do to make a good match. Nikki Bella throws a great forearm. Ronda Rousey has a glass jaw. That's all you have to do. And if you do that, you have a great match right there. If Nikki Bella can get a forearm to Rousey, she has a chance to beat her. Keyword, if.
Well, let's hope that doesn't happen. Ronda all the way. We do not need another Nikki Bella Reign of Terror. I've seen more than enough Nikki Bella title reigns matches. I don't need to see any more.
Yeah, no, I'm not even gonna waste the time on disputing the quote unquote great forearm.
Do you deny the power of Nikki Sawa, the Slay Queen of all Slay Queens? Besides, at least I said Nikki's Misawa-inspired forearms and not Bree's Kawada-inspired kicks.
Yeah, that's Ronda. And this card is like from just is a lot of please don't do this. Like, and I'm not the biggest Ronda fan either, but not Nikki.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, like, for discussing this card, like, I should just have Consuela in the background. Just no.
Well, honestly, that's always been the one thing I'll give WWE with booking Ronda Rousey for it, where WWE's used the fact that fans have no trust in that company anymore to its benefit in the booking of Ronda Rousey. Because on the paper, it's Ronda Rousey. Come on. Just a couple years ago, she was seen as the baddest woman on the planet. No one would buy Ronda Rousey losing to pretty much any woman on the roster. It's shit. It's Ronda Rousey. You don't buy these people, no matter if they're good hot top stars, if they're good wrestlers, if they're MMA trained. It's Ronda Rousey. You're not beating her. So what WWE's done instead, they've put Rousey against a steady stream of people like Stephanie McMahon, Alexa Bliss, Nia Jax, Nikki Bella, future Charlotte Flair. And it's all basically not people who you think could beat Ronda Rousey in a fair fight, but rather you think WWE is absolutely that stupid that they would waste the rub of Ronda Rousey on her. And suddenly there's actual drama in each match. Not because, yeah, I think she could take Ronda Rousey, but yeah, I think WWE is absolutely stupid enough to do this. It's actually pretty interesting if you think about it that way.
Yeah, and just on the wrestling perspective, on the kayfabe, tying back into a few minutes ago with the Asuka streak and who all she went through. Like there were some credible opponents, but there was also like surely not. And going into WrestleMania 34, and yes, credible, kayfabe credible. Surely Charlotte does not retain against Asuka here.
Mm-hmm.
But I see your point, and I agree with it, and maybe my analogy was off, but that if there was anything interesting about the Asuka undefeated streak is how does it end?
Mm-hmm.
When does it end? Who does it end to?
Mm-hmm.
Like, who are they going to pull the trigger on? And we got Charlotte.
Yeah, but that
It was the right time, right place, wrong person.
Yeah, but
yeah,
that's
exactly. Anybody else but Charlotte.
But that really ties into the problem that I said with the Joshi stars getting big on it for Kairi Sane and Io Shirai, because again with Asuka, it wasn't just Asuka shouldn't lose to this performer, but rather Asuka can't lose to this performer. This performer's beneath her. And there's a point where it ceased to be Asuka as undefeated streak as a force of nature and more into Asuka's undefeated streak basically placating 2-year-olds.
Yeah. And I'll put it this way. If Nikki beats Ronda at Evolution, that would be like Eva Marie going over Asuka in NXT.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly, that really ties to the question, though. Asuka has to lose to someone at WrestleMania. Who do you have her lose to? It's got to be at
Not
WrestleMania.
Charlotte.
I'm going to sound biased on this, but Becky Lynch. Because at the time, she really could have used something like that.
I'd go with this. I'd go with the simple cut the cord on that one as well. Ronda Rousey.
I could see that, but with Ronda showing up at the Rumble, they could have worked it that way. She stole Asuka's moment. Kind of like what they're telling with Becky here.
Yeah.
Like Asuka wins, and before she can, say who she's going to face, here comes Ronda.
Yeah, and honestly, you could have done it that way, where it's basically both sides have all the force on this one. If Ronda Rousey wins, you cannot doubt she belongs in WWE again. If Asuka wins, there isn't any doubt anymore. Asuka is the baddest woman on the planet.
And I said this in a thread, I think yesterday's daily or something. Please don't whatever feud she goes with next, and this ties into the women's battle royal. Do not have Tamina win that freaking battle royal to face us or to face Ronda.
Oh God, no! Oh God, no!
Please,
even if
for
she's
the
gotten pushed on this one, Tamina is the worst person on the WWE roster right now. She's not over. She's not gonna be over. She's not very talented anymore. She's not even that attractive. She has the lowest bone on the planet, and for non whacked out wrestling viewers, bone would be replacement level in pro wrestling, or as I'd call it easier, value over Mike Bennett. If you are better than Mike Bennett, you belong on the national wrestling scene. If you are worse than Mike Bennett, you don't belong on a national scale. And Tamina has negative value right now.
all right, and I said that because of what happened last Monday with making, for whatever reason, they wanted to make Tamina look strong. Like, fuck. No. And seriously, like this whole episode, I could have just played Consuela over and over. Like, no, don't do that.
Now this is why we put sound effects on WoW.
Like it just, I get that. For lack of a better term, I know we're good. Like the size factor. Like Ronda's already gone through Nia, and that wasn't good. And so I guess visually, for lack of a better term, you have to make it look more competitive. Mm-hmm. For instance, when people bring up, Brock versus Finn, like just visually, but we're not talking about a shoot octagon UFC fight. We're talking about a predetermined, you agent it well, you book it well.
Yeah. And if you're doing that one, just realize that just because Tamina is relatively big doesn't work in an era of Nia Jax. Tamina wasn't like Beth Phoenix, where people bought her as a monstrous for years, so they could say, okay, you're not bigger on it, go with that. And if you need people who are just big, that's where you use people like Charlotte, who's at least tall. People like Billie Kay, who's relatively tall. Things like that.
Now, if this would have been years ago, if she was still alive, maybe still current, China.
Yeah.
Put China against Ronda.
Yeah.
There's some, but not Tamina. Please, not Tamina.
Yeah. Because that just doesn't work. Anymore.
That's recipe for disaster. If you go Tamina, have that title match be the very next night on Monday Night Raw, and have it be 5 seconds long, one punch, a pin, and be done with it. Do not.
Yeah, even
think that feud's gonna work.
Judo throw, armbar, that's it. Because we haven't seen Ronda get a true 30-second Ronda Rousey match in WWE yet.
And speaking of, the Nikki Bella versus Ronda match, can we do a Goldberg versus Lesnar match, Survivor Series 2 years ago, and just completely like bada boom, done?
Again, that's still weird because a short match would work there, but like I said, you could at least make theoretically a match that had some time just on the build of Nikki Bella has great forearms and Ronda Rousey can't take a punch. You don't need that much more to at least have
I get that, and that is a little bias showing on my side of.
Yeah, you don't need. It doesn't need to be a short match, or that long a match, but you can get a good match out of. Nikki throws good forearms, and Rousey can't take a punch. At least get 5 or 10 minutes out of it.
Have it be 30 seconds. Just save us all the trouble.
And of course, you're gonna have Brie on the outside, and you can prolong it, but it should just be a legit. And a comment I saw somewhere on again Twitter or sites, with all the social media back and forth, like the last thing Nikki wants to do is shoot. Like Ronda will tear your ass up and spit you out.
Yeah.
Like they better be like DMing each other like, man, we're getting everybody worked up, man. We're really promoting this. Because that no way in hell do you get a legit pissed off Ronda going into a match. Not saying she would do anything unprofessional, but she might throw a couple of stiff moves in there that Nikki hasn't seen before.
Yeah, and Taker's Minion in the chat is saying that it should be a squash match. Ronda wins in under a minute, and I totally agree.
And see, my wife, I guess, I said that earlier, we're going to try something new, and wife was supposed to be monitoring the chat, and I guess she failed me again. No, she fell asleep, and you have to realize I'm on my phone, and the podcast is happening on my laptop in the house, but she and Morris fell asleep, so she was monitoring for a little while, but nobody was saying anything. But then she fell asleep, and so here we are.
Yep. Well, if the moderators are asleep, that means all the fans waiting for Crown Jewel can start spamming it. So.
What else?
I think it's the entire Evolution card, at least at the moment. It's always possible that they can add a last minute match, but as of tonight, they haven't yet.
Yeah, and that's really the problem, because you can see why the problem for the women's battle royal happened, because there's not, that card's pretty weak if you think about it. It could use a few more matches.
It's a very weak card, I think.
Yeah, I don't see how you can get 3.5 hours out of this card.
I don't think we need 3.5 hours, honestly. Just make it 3 hours, maybe even less than that.
Yeah, and honestly, this was why I was a firm believer that the Battle Royal having so many of the current roster on it was so bad, because this needed to be bare minimum. Every woman on the main roster gets an entrance. Everyone gets their entrance, their chance to be cheered or booed, and have something resembling a match. Because there's not going to be a lot of big, long matches on it, and it just seems kind of meh.
And if there's any justice, any equality, and if you can't tell my sarcastic voice by now, you haven't been listening to us long. If there's any justice in the world, put a men's match on the pre-show.
Honestly, if I was going to do that, if I was going to put a men's match on the show, just do it. Personally, if it was those ones, either I would have had for a men's match for them. Either A, Maria comes to the ring with Mike Kanellis as her valet. Zelina Vega comes to the ring with Andrade Cien Almas as her valet. And Lana comes to the ring with Rusev as her valet to do it that way.
Were you still talking women, but the men are the one where the crowd's, just filing in half full. Nobody's even paying but you still include the women.
Yeah.
But their quote unquote spotlight isn't on the pre-show.
Well, my concept would be that you have the men as valets for it, like the women would normally be. Or you have James show up and eat a lot of finishers from people and just gets run down with finishers like they did on the European tour last year. Or if you really want to do it the best way possible, just go all out with it. Get something like a complete Raw versus SmackDown Dream match on it as the pre-show match. And just using that roster, let me get the full SmackDown roster for it.
I thought Survivor Series was the one night a year where Raw and SmackDown go head to head.
Well, go with this dream match for the obvious one for it. Finn Balor versus Jeff Hardy as your pre-show match, in a tuxedo match, in a pool filled with pudding.
Shit, who was the other one? Finn was one. Who was the other one?
Finn Balor versus Jeff Hardy.
Yeah, because I'm brought up the same thing. Like, instead of a bra and panties match, have a Speedo and abs match.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's why you just go with the tuxedo match. It's the old-fashioned male version of you have to strip the loser to win.
Yeah, basically we're saying the same thing, but Balor has to be in that.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Throw it inside a swimming pool filled with pudding, and you have the perfect way for the pre-show match.
Ties completely back into the Dean Ambrose, Seth Rollins, like, now you know how it feels, motherfucker.
Yeah. Yeah. And you do it that way for the perfectly normal one and have the joke work for, okay, this time the men are going to be in the kiddie pool filled with pudding in an eye candy match. Or you just have them in the pool with Brett Favre and a bottle of Thousand Island dressing.
Oh, good grief. Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, this is the weakness with Metal Matt being too young to remember when South Park was South Park.
And it better be damn well be sponsored by Wrangler.
Yeah.
It damn well better be.
Well, I think Lana was friends with Jen Sturger. She could probably get him on the show.
Man, I know usually you talk about other promotions, MLW, LU and stuff. Anything going on in that realm?
Yeah, let me go ahead and check and see what happened on MLW, because I know they had a big main event match. There was actually an altercation while they were promoting Fightland in Chicago. Filthy Tom Lawler was attacked by Sami Callihan while they were doing media.
I'm going to mute real quick and wait for this rain to pass for a second.
All right, so the main event was Filthy Tom Lawler versus Shane Strickland. It was actually a really good match. It was a really good main event match. Had Low Ki interfering at one point. Lawler does end up making Shane Strickland tap out, which is a pretty big surprise because Low Ki and Shane Strickland are going to be fighting at the next big MLW event, which is Fightland. This MLW show, it was the first part of Fury Road, which is their October event. Then we had El Hijo de LA Park versus Sammy Guevara. And that was a pretty good match as well. And then we also had the Smash and Dash connection, Barrington Hughes and Carlo Brazil, taking on the Samoan Island tribe, which is Samu and Lance Anawa. And then this Friday, it's going to be a very special episode, a special Halloween episode. MLW Fright Night. It's going to be Sami Callihan and Jimmy Havoc in a spin the wheel, make the deal match.
Come on, Coal Miner's Glove. Come on, Coal Miner's Glove.
I'm very curious what stipulation they'll do with that. Because there's a lot of options they could do.
Yeah. Just as long as we have Cheatham the Evil Midget there, that's all we need.
And then we have PCO versus LA Park.
Yep. That match I can parse that match, but I still can't imagine why it's so big in 2018.
Same here, honestly. And so let me bring up the Fightland card for November, because I think this is a pretty interesting card. It's going to be taking place in Chicago in November 8th to be precise. And it's going to be the Lucha Bros defending the tag titles against LA Park and Hijo the LA Park.
Mm-hmm.
Then it's Low Key defending the world title against Shane Strickland.
On the first match, Twin Magic.
And then we have Roosh making his MLW debut as he takes on Sammy Guevara.
Mm-hmm.
Then PCO versus Brody King in a no DQ match.
Mm-hmm.
And Stokely Hathaway makes his MLW return. Then Brian Pillman Jr. versus Tommy Dreamer.
Mm-hmm.
Ace Romero versus Marco Stunt.
Oh, God. Why? Just Romero is terrible.
Wait till you hear the next match. Wait till you hear the next match.
They aren't putting Barrington Hughes against Ace Romero in the match I'd see in hell.
And finally, the next match is Joey Ryan and Swoggle versus the Dirty Blondes.
Makes sense. Hornswoggle teaming with Joey Ryan just is par for the course on it.
Okay, now are we talking about like Swoggle's actually showing up, or is that just Joey's penis?
Hopefully it's the latter, because I don't want to see Hornswoggle wrestle. It was bad enough seeing him in WWE.
You guys, you know me by now. All my jokes are bad, most of them anyway. Like that. What a weird combo. And it just screams of shit that should not, where that's going to go. Sorry.
Yeah. But it's still a Joey Ryan match, and the worst part of him is he seems to just play the hits. Heck, it's surprising you just have that as the match and you haven't gotten to Joey Ryan versus James Ellsworth. It's funny because Joey Ryan has a penis and James Ellsworth has no chin.
So yeah, that's the Fightland card for November. It looks pretty promising, I think.
No AA is going to Shocktober this weekend for Rocky Mountain Pro. So we'll get that review next Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
Either one of you guys watch any other wrestling outside of what we talked about?
I watched NXT and Lucha Underground tonight.
too much work to watch more wrestling than I did. So
All I'll say about Lucha Underground is that, and I don't want to give too much away just in case anyone hasn't seen it, but let's just say that there is a certain wrestler that they are just over pushing, and that's all I'm going to say.
Sexy Star's back?
No, it's an XWE star, and it reminds me of when TNA would scoop up an XWE star and just push them out of spite.
Oh,
That's
I know.
what this feels like.
Vega's back again.
Thomas and I both had the same kind of joke. Like, mine was more of how overpushed Sexy Star was, and his was more on overpushing in WWE stars.
Yeah.
And not only that, but they're pretty much making him a poor man's Pentagon.
Well, the problem on it, if with who you said on this one, I could see it because if Marty the Moth Martinez is the star on this one, I could see Jake Strong being the top heel in Lucha Underground because then you have Marty Martinez should be the number 2 heel to Jake Strong. So you have the number 1 heel in Lucha Underground is the overt racist who actually does, and the number 2 heel is the inadvertent racist, the guy who doesn't realize it and is trying to be accidentally racist. And that would make more sense with
Lucha. The guy that I'm not trying to say, but
yeah.
And whenever you say I'm not trying to be or I'm not trying to say, but it never fails. The very next thing you fucking say is exactly what you said you weren't gonna try to say.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's really
go ahead.
Yeah, that's really the issue on it because you'd have to have the person who's the open Trump supporter heel, like Jake Strong could be the Sam Adonis value, and you have Marty Martinez who's the I'm not trying to be racist, but I think Depeche Mode was a sweet band or stuff like that.
I think fully a month behind on Lucha Underground now. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to keep up. It's just finding time and stuff.
Yeah, because I think Ultima Lucha Quattro starts next week. I could be wrong on that, but I think next week is when it officially starts. And it actually has a pretty good card to it, I'll be honest. I'm not really a fan of some of the direction of the creative for this particular season, but the card does look good.
Yeah, and that's really the problem with most of wrestling right now, where the creative isn't very good, but the wrestling's really good.
Yeah.
You and I were about to say the same thing. Like on paper, the card, you can't say it for every promotion, but on paper, the card looks good. It's just a lot of times the story leading up to that card is the downfall, the creative side of it.
Also, I gotta say this for AA since she isn't here tonight. El Bunny.
El Bunny.
Wait, they actually got Ed O'Neill to wrestle for Lucha Underground?
Nice Married with Children reference.
I mean, wrestling builds around football stars, and he had 4 touchdowns in one game.
He's the greatest football player of all time.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else?
I think that's about it, I think.
SK, where can they find you in your Whacked Out Wrestling time?
Whacked Out Wrestling is most of the time it's Thursday nights at 11 p.m. with me, Joey the Caveman, and John Roche, and Sunday shows, which are more pure things where we go with pay-per-view views of wrestling things, and basically stuff to show that we actually know our shit about wrestling. You can also find me on Cage Side Seats, on Twitter at Thomas at T Green S Knight. As always, check the mixtape at Fire. See, it's so much fire it causes reverb on people, so you know it's good.
Whatever that was bad.
Mm-hmm.
We're live, pal. Oh, that's Matt again.
Yeah. Well, at least by the end of the podcast, we know where the reverb was coming from, so.
Boo. Matt turned heel on us.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, what?
Bad joke. Always bad joke. Matt, what about where can they find you and your podcast on Fridays?
Well, you can catch me on Twitter at MelMatt15. Also hang on Cage Side Seats, hang on the daily and the nightly. The nightly tonight, continuing the Black Sabbath retrospective. Tonight was on Seventh Star, which was a surprisingly good album. And tomorrow night it's going to be on Ozzy Osbourne's The Ultimate Sin. So that should be interesting.
No, LFO retrospective, so.
I host the nightly on Saturdays, and I have a surprise for Thomas for this upcoming. I thought about it for 2 weeks, if not more. And Thomas, you'll get your wish. It will be short and sweet, but you'll get the reference when I do it. And this week, Matt. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Well, this week we might be taking a bit of a break because I'm trying to work out a schedule with my guest this week because he's pretty busy this week, so there might not be a new episode of the podcast this week, but we might be working on it for next Thursday. I'm not making any promises, but next Thursday is where we're sort of aiming for.
But if it goes opposite Whacked Out Wrestling, it works on this one. I'm sure that we can bump Ray J. Johnson for that one.
But yeah, the next episode that we are going to be doing is WrestleMania 20, and my guest is going to be none other than the godfather of shooting the breeze, Taker's minion, who was also in the chat for this episode. So it will be a pretty cool episode when we do it.
It is a better guest than Ray J. Johnson, so good job.
And shout out to obviously our missing person, Ambrose Alley AA. You can find her, Lady Roshana, on Twitter. She's in the daily. Occasionally comes to the nightly on Cage Side Seats as Ambrose Alley. One of the best people I've ever met in my life. Just good people.
Yep.
She started all this. I named it, but this is her baby, and she was looking for a name, and I came up with the name, and like, hey, let's roll with it, and here we are, almost a year later. I usually say, like, don't find me, but on Twitter I'm at Fireman6809. Our podcast Twitter is Violent Wrestling with no G. We're here every Wednesday, 10 Eastern, 9 Central. A little bit later tonight than usual. But again, AA getting back from her big old vacation. So if you're listening to this, AA, I need a vacation too, you know. So she's tuckered out. So we're just building up for her return. That's all we're doing. That's what good wrestling promotions do, is just building up. Our fellow podcasters, again, with Whacked Out Wrestling, is Thursday nights at, I believe, 11 p.m. Eastern, around that time. Shooting the Breeze is Saturday mornings, 11 Central, 11 Eastern, 10 Central. Two Guys, One Sport. I always forget when they air.
Thursday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central.
Okay. And Grounds for Development airs early Wednesday morning, I think 10 Eastern, 9 Central, and that's with 5. This is Scotch One, Spinning Nerve Hold, and Biff Kensington. Am I leaving anybody out?
Connoisseurs of Wrestling with Taker's Mania and Legends over Biff Kensington and George Chavez every Monday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central.
Yep. There's plenty of additions to the Los Ingobernables de podcast family. Far more than any of your other podcast groups.
We've all kind of, it's like a spider web. Like anybody you listen to, whoever you're listening to, like it's kind of like the 6 degrees of separation with Kevin Bacon.
Yeah.
Like,
and there's different
podcast than
whatever you want as well.
not yet. So I guess that about wraps this up for this episode. Sorry we were late. And unless you guys had any final thoughts, I think we're about done.
Yep. The only thoughts that can end this podcast is the same as always. Fuck cancer.
Agreed. Fuck cancer.
Yep.
All right, guys. Until next Wednesday, hope you all have a good week, and we'll talk to you, or at least you will hear us next week. Have a good night. Have a good week, and we'll see you next Wednesday. Take care.
Peace.